Hello everyone, my name is Wendy Bromfield and I'm a student here at the School of Library and Information Science at Kent State University. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to and watch my presentation for Information Technology for Library and Information Professionals. I chose as my topic for this presentation, Addressing the Technology Needs of Teens, Some Observations and Recommendations at the North Olmsted Library. In terms of my objective for this project, I chose to focus on the technology needs of teens and how they relate to the technology found in the local library in North Olmsted, Ohio, and then to suggest some improvements that could be made to those offerings. I believe this is a very important topic as teens are quite literally the future of libraries, but according to the studies that have been done on this topic, 76% of teenagers equate libraries with books, and about 40% of them believe them to be obsolete. And this is based on studies that are shown in the footnote below. Now this slide shows a picture of the North Olmsted Library. The North Olmsted Library is located in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. It's a predominantly working class suburb. And something important to note is that it is within blocks of the high school. In my observations, I noticed that teens are frequent patrons of this library. They will come after school and socialize, but what I also noticed is that they were not using the technology resources available. The methods I used for this project were simple. I visited the library on 3 separate occasions to observe technology and the patron activity. I researched both the website and technology training that was available at the library and throughout the district. And I also thoroughly researched the scholarly literature about teens, technology, and libraries, how these 3 things intersect, and how technology can actually help make libraries relevant for the future. What we have here is a photograph, 2 photographs of the available workstation hardware. It's a very basic setup, a compact computer made by HP, and a very small monitor. It's 17 inches. It's a very space-saving technology that doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. What this slide details is an overview of the computer hardware. I've already shown a picture of the workstation computer, which is an HP Compact 8000 Elite. It is powered by an Intel Core 2 Duo, which has 2 processors, 4 gigabytes of memory, and again that 17-inch monitor with a basic optical mouse and a LaserJet printer as detailed here in the slide. I know this slide has a lot of information in it, and it's in the presentation just to detail the software that is available on the workstations at the library. Now, what you can see from observing this is, it seems like a lot of software, but much of it is actually quite outdated. Some of the software that I believe shows promise for a teenage audience, for example, a digital video editor, Audacity, is from 2006. We have a DVD maker, again, from 2009, a movie maker from 2011. Now, that may not be entirely outdated, but the problem, as I saw it, was the context. The computers are located in a public area in the stacks between the nonfiction section and the DVDs and CDs. It's not a designated space, so if teens were to gather, say, to work on making a movie, it'd be very difficult to do anything creative or collaborative in this environment. Looking on through the software, you'll notice a games interface. Again, games are very appealing to teens, but are also very important ways of creating connections, as I will detail later on. The games interface from 2009 has no games loaded on it, so it's essentially just a shell. It's there for any future games, I suppose, or perhaps games that have been removed from the workstations. In terms of network connections, there are 3 search engines available on all of the library computers: Firefox, Chrome, and Explorer, all of which seemed up to date. Now, all 3 of these will take you directly to the catalog homepage, which is a positive attribute in that it ensures that patrons are intimately familiar with the catalog homepage, which is also the library's webpage. Firefox, however, is the only one that opens a separate search window for searching the internet. Chrome and Internet Explorer, you have to enter your search query into the address line, overriding the URL for the library. This isn't a problem for savvy researchers, which are used to either method, but for some teenagers, this would be confusing, requiring them to hunt for what I call an on-ramp to the internet. Because you could compare this to teenagers using, for example, Siri or Google, which has a very straightforward and clear method of searching the internet. Moving on to library systems, and here we have the OPAC. What you see here on this slide, I know there's a lot of graphics here. I was trying to illustrate the difference between the basic search and the advanced search that's available at this library. On the left-hand side, you see the basic search. It's embedded in a mess of graphics, and you see the basic search box there where it says search for books, ebooks, events, and more. I like this integrated feature because you can actually click in that box and choose if you want to search the library catalog, the website, or events. If you don't select any of those, it defaults to the catalog. Now, to access the advanced search, you can begin by doing a basic search, or you can click on the gold circle with the arrow in it. That will take you to the advanced search, in which you can do basic Boolean searching using and, or not. You can use keyword searches, or you can limit it, as you see below, by format or collection, location, language, year. So it gives the patrons different options for the advanced search, which are pretty straightforward. But I'd like to see a little bit more explanation of Boolean search terms, because I don't believe that's something that a teenage audience would be very familiar with. Now here I detail the positives and negatives of the OPAC system. In terms of positives, the OPAC system is available on workstations, on dedicated catalog computers, and online, so it's very accessible. There's an integrated basic search, so you can search not only the catalog, but also website and events. And finally, the advanced search, you can use either keywords and Boolean search terms, and if you're not a very savvy researcher, you can use the fields to limit by format, collection, location, language, and year range. Negatives include the fact that advanced search does not come with any explanations or help. So I believe this could be confusing, especially for a teenage audience that may not have a lot of experience or knowledge of Boolean searching. Patrons may also not understand the difference between searches that are going to offer them high recall or high precision. And improper searching could result in some false drops. In terms of databases for a teenage audience, this library has much to offer. It's very easily accessible from the catalog or from the web page. By using the global search bar at the top, all you need to do is click on Research, and you're given the option to select resources. And you'll see in the image I have embedded here that in the very far right-hand corner, there's Teen as an option. Clicking on Teen results in 32 resources of specific interest to teens, including ERIC and the Academic Search Premier. There's online encyclopedias and dictionaries, resources to help in recognizing diverse viewpoints, for example, for writing position papers. There's resources on culture and diversity, biographies, literature, genealogy, science, technology, engineering, and math, the environment, image databases, and even driver's exams, just for a few examples. I want to really drive home the importance of having user-friendly and accessible and attractive library systems. Many teens are lacking in confidence on how to use the library, and many of them are not very savvy in terms of how to conduct research. In fact, as you'll see on this slide, a survey of teachers showed that 94% said their students would be very likely to turn to Google or to another search engine, with Wikipedia close behind at 75%. Less than 1 in 5 teachers said they expected their students to turn to online databases or to research librarians. And so a bit of a startling statistic, especially for librarians or persons entering the library field. My observations of patron activity and technology training include the fact that patrons seemed comfortable getting started on the computers by entering their library card. There was always help available from 2 adjacent librarians. Most of the patrons on the computers were adults conducting job searches, using social media, doing internet searches, and the like. Now, it seemed that there were too few computers for peak times, as on a Monday at 1:30, the computers were almost full. Patrons are allotted 1/2 hour, which is always renewed unless there's a waiting list. The most alarming observation was that there were no teens on the computers. And granted, 1:30 on a Monday is still school hours, but I was there for several hours after that, and no teens came over to use the computers, choosing instead to socialize in the teen literature area. Now, the branch offers some technology training, but because there isn't a dedicated computer lab or media lab, it's difficult because the computers are in a very public place. And the dissatisfaction with technology training is evident when you look at the websites and you find the strategic plan for the library system. According to this strategic plan, they conducted a survey of 8,730 people that revealed that respondents generally think our offerings of technology access and training are extremely valuable, but not enough. The more the better was the general consensus, and technology was identified as a top priority among all respondents. Available technology training can be found in 2 places: on the leaflets that are available at each branch and also on the website. In the next month, there's 2 classes offered at the North Olmsted Library, which both happen to be for teens. One is stop motion animation, in which teens can animate Lego figures using the stop motion software, and Game Maker, mocking games, in which they can create video games. Now, broadening the search to also include the next nearest branch in Fairview Park reveals 11 results, 7 of them for teens. One of the offerings is something called Teen Zone, which is offered on Mondays after school, in which teens can socialize and learn about new apps. I believe this shows some insight on the part of the administrators because teens so strongly ascribe importance to libraries as spaces, as shown in the research detailed below. The library branch has a website, and the library district is also available in different social media formats. In order to assess the web presence, I used a Likert scale as detailed in Module 7 of this class. This Likert scale assessed the overall design, information architecture, usability, the user experience, functionality, universal access, and memorability of the site. I chose this method because it also took into account CART, or contrast, alignment, repetition, and proximity, as detailed by Williams and Tollett in their research. What I found overall was that the website lacked contrast. There's no obvious starting point. And this was an issue when you compare it to teens using the Google query box, for example. That's very straightforward and obvious how to search. The website, as you will see on the next slide, lacks crispness and clarity and tries to do too much at once. Here you see two quick snapshots of the library website. The website actually extends outward and downward from what is visible here. At the very top is a useful feature in the global search bar. Here you can do research, you can find branches, you can learn information about library services, etc. At the bottom of the website are quick links, which could be very useful. However, the information contained there is redundant in that anything that can be accomplished in the quick links can also be accomplished in the global search bar above. The middle of the web page is a mess of graphics. As you can see, there's also a map and branch events listed. What should really be the focal point of the website is the query box, but as you can see, it's quite small and embedded within the graphics. It's very difficult to see. The information architecture of the website is very confusing in that it uses several organizational schemes, such as the global search bar at the top and quick links below. The website also rated very poorly on universal access goals, meaning that software used by disabled patrons, such as the blind, would find the information contained in the website difficult to translate into a usable form. Another important factor, based on the research of Priest, Rogers, and Sharp, is the concept of memorability, or the ability to find the same information on subsequent visits to the website. I found that memorability is lacking in this website, and my evaluation of this factor resulted in a very low rating. My overall assessment of the library is that the technology is very basic, it's aging, and it does very little to draw teenagers. There's very little chance for patrons to creatively engage or to test emerging technologies. Ultimately, I believe that the introduction of a digital media lab or even a very small portable unit would add value to the library offerings for teenagers by allowing them to engage more creatively with the technology and with each other. Here is a definition of a digital media lab. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Goodman has defined it basically as a place for the creation of video, audio, or digital content and for converting analog media to digital. Most importantly, the content is being created in some form rather than just being consumed. Overall, some of the recommendations that I can make based on my observations and research are that the hardware and the software both need to be updated and a digital media lab needs to be created. Now again, this could be something very small, it could be portable, it could be in terms of software upgrades, upgrading the movie software, for example, or the audio software, and creating a separate space in which to house this, even if you converted a study room or a meeting room, of which there are multiples, into a space that this could be used and where teenagers could gather and collaboratively work. It would be nice to see several computers networked together for tournament-style play of games. Special events can be held, especially if there is a dedicated space. One example was a day camp that was sponsored by the Houston Public Library that emphasized science, technology, reading, arts, and math. This space can be used for training not only for hardware and software, but also for teaching teens how to use library systems and how to do academic research. Lastly, it would be important to, I guess, tweak how the marketing is done, not just through the website, but also through social media, where you're best going to reach teens, not through paper leaflets that they may or may not pick up on their visit. In closing, involving teens in technology, not just for the sake of technology, but as part of a connected learning environment is essential. This was summarized in a seminal report by the Young Adult Library Services Association, saying, ultimately, we must be the proverbial dog that wags the tail of technology instead of being driven by technology without a clear purpose or aim of how it can impact teen services. Ultimately, again, teenagers are the future of libraries, and whether or not they consider libraries relevant or important is going to impact the future of libraries and the librarian profession in the future. Thank you.